Part 70. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 694. Karma has a say in the strength of the big mosquito. She has watched him advance from intermediate to high level, and this has only been more than a year. Generally speaking, ordinary creatures want to advance to the next level. The venerable level requires at least tens to hundreds of years of accumulation. Dion novel. But Jia Yan is about to be promoted? No, it shouldn't be a promotion, but it must be a huge breakthrough, Karma thought with some certainty. Is Jia Yan indeed being promoted? At this moment, he paid no attention to everything around him, and he had no intention of caring about the shock to the entire fleet. His feeling at this moment, after some understanding of life, seemed to have seen through something. For himself, for the entire fleet, there is also the definition of strong. This kid can break through like this, but he won't be the breakthrough master. It's a pity. After all, it can be considered a big step forward. The light and shadow monster felt the power of Jia Yan's breakthrough in Jia Yan's body, and was extremely pleased. Not long after, the fluctuations in Jia Yan's body stopped. Who was I just now? Jia Yan felt his body, and then felt a little surprised. You have broken through, and you have broken through to a new kind of true understanding. To put it bluntly, it is a deeper understanding of the power of brain waves. To break through the shackles of brainwave power is a deeper change. I have realized the prelude of this change, the light and shadow monster said to Jia Yan as he emitted the power of his brainwaves. Huh? This is a breakthrough that can really continue to change. Jia Yan was happy in his heart. As a disciple under the guidance of the light and shadow monster, he had long known that if he wanted to progress to the level of a venerable being, he must increase his brainwave power to a higher level. By the time the brain breaks through the level, the power of the brain will not only be the power of brain waves, but also a kind of realization and understanding of the universe, otherwise it will be impossible to reach the level of the venerable. And now that he has a deep understanding of the power of brain waves, he is not far away from the level of a venerable. I also feel that there is only a thin barrier between me and the venerable level, and I may break through to the venerable level at any time. By then, my combat effectiveness will be greatly improved. You must know the venerable level and the high-level starry sky. The level of strength is absolutely different. Jia Yan was surprised by this breakthrough, but also took it for granted. After all, he had a feeling of breakthrough before, and as a being with extremely fast breakthrough speed, it took so long for him to feel a breakthrough again. It all feels slow. Of course, if his growth trajectory is seen by other strong men, they will all be extremely shocked. Even before the starry sky level, his breakthrough speed after the starry sky level will definitely shock a lot of so-called strong men and women. Genius Jin. Well, although my strength has not yet reached the level of the venerable, it is still greatly enhanced. In this case, I will have some means to deal with the venerable who is following behind. Jia Yan slowly stood up. The entire fleet thought that Jia Yan was just letting Kama figure out the details of the battle, but what they didn't know was that Jia Yan was making other calculations about another possibly bigger crisis in the rear. The next time Guanqiang had followed the giant mosquito fleet early, although the detection equipment did not detect him, Jia Yan knew that the other party was following behind. Maybe a giant mosquito fleet itself cannot have much influence on this strong man, but the other party understands Jia Yan's strength. When he is not sure, he will not arrest Jia Yan, otherwise it will just be like last time, so that Jia Yan can be captured. Yan just escaped again. After reaching the strength of a strong man, he thinks about things differently. What this strong man wants is not to kill Jia Yan's forces, but to let the giant mosquito fleet exist to hold back Jia Yan. Otherwise, Jia Yan is just if someone escapes, it will be even harder to catch him in the northern star territory of Nyida. In the starry sky area behind the giant mosquito fleet, a warship with a trace of smoke was slowly pursuing it. There's a huge vibration ahead. Is there something wrong with the battleship detection system? Or is it that the giant Mosquito fleet is practicing? The smoke monster had a slight doubt about the alarm in the battleship's detector, but he didn't have many other thoughts at the moment. After all, the strength of a strong man was absolute in the universe. His strength was a threat to the giant Mosquito fleet as a whole. An insurmountable threshold. Even if he learned that the giant Mosquito fleet had tactics that could defeat Wei, he didn't think that the opponent could use group tactics and pose any threat to him. He never thought that this was Jia Yan's promotion. He had collected Jia Yan's information and knew that Jia Yan's strength had just been promoted not long ago, so there was no possibility of promotion. He even thought that Jia Yan's promotion strength was still there. It is normal to have no stability. It seems that Jia Yan's fleet really wants to attack the Taya kingdom, but this has nothing to do with me. It's just that I can secretly support the Taya kingdom, as long as Jia Yan personally goes to fight and consumes his power. Then I will have a chance to capture him. I must get the secret of promotion to the stellar level. The monsters chasing from behind didn't know that Jia Yan in front was already chasing him. They seemed to be aware of it and just followed the giant Mosquito fleet from a distance. The fleet's fluctuations finally deceived ordinary soldiers with some excuses. Jia Yan just explained it to Kama and other senior officials. After knowing that Jia Yan had made a breakthrough in strength, all the members were surprised and shocked. They already knew that Jia Yan was extremely talented, but they didn't expect that Jia Yan's talent was so incredible. However, as the strongest member of the fleet, his improvement in strength will not harm the giant Mosquito fleet, and may even have a decisive effect on the approaching war. The time came quickly 3 days later. Sir, in this starry sky, a warship that Taya Kingdom has just purchased from an outside force will soon pass by. Although those warships are full of personnel, after all, the weapons and equipment are new to them, so they must not have strong combat power. The decision we discussed is to declare war on the Pacific Kingdom while attacking them. Findalai was having a conversation with Jia Yan in the camp-class spaceship. Okay, you can figure it out, but I won't participate too much in this battle because I have to guard against another existence. I hope you can win. Jia Yan nodded. Another existence? Fendalai looked at Jia Yan in surprise. Seeing that he didn't say anything, she had no choice but to nod. Originally, we didn't want you to send out your master in this battle. After all, you belong to us, the final trump card. After turning off the communication, Jia Yan just slowly crouched on the metal ground of the camp-class spacecraft. Although this breakthrough was also a huge breakthrough, it did not increase his body size much, so the size of the ground was still enough for him. Use. He continued to feel the presence behind him. Jia Yan didn't know if his innate ability to sense heat had mutated as his strength increased. At this moment, he could faintly sense places farther away than the battleship detection system. More than 2 million kilometers behind the fleet, at the outskirts of the battleship detection system, a quietly following battleship docked there, faintly releasing a hint of strong perception towards the fleet here. Tracking is ongoing. This time Guanqiang's strength is really unfathomable. I don't know if I can fight against him now. Jia Yan felt a little solemnly about this strong man. Jia Yan, don't underestimate his strength. Every venerable and powerful person is not a small person. Their talents may not be as good as yours, but they are all talented. Some of them are as strong as the powerful. They will be extremely powerful when they explode under certain circumstances. Some strong people are extremely powerful in certain terrains. If you underestimate these strong people, you will definitely suffer. For example, this guy, I knew him when I saw him before. It's difficult to deal with, his strength is probably smoke-based. You can see that around the entire fleet, there are faint smoke following him in some places. It must be his smoke ability that is following him. The strength of this kind of strong person is a bit fantasy for ordinary strong people, and it is the same for you. What you have dealt with before are ordinary battles. There are very few battles with strong people with this kind of abstract ability. If you fight him, don't be careless and run away if you can, because such strong men are often extremely terrifying. The light and shadow monster gave Jia Yan some pointers again. I will. Jia Yan nodded while looking behind him. Jia Yan was not too concerned about the battle the fleet was about to face. As his strength improved, he felt that the fleet did not pose much of a threat to him. Jia Yan was either practical or arrogant. No matter what, in short, Jia Yan doesn't care too much about things that are not of great help, and from the beginning, he didn't have much influence on the giant Mosquito fleet. What he cares about is his own strength. If Taia country didn't have something that could be of great help, he wouldn't even bother to help Kama recover. On the other side, Kama and other senior leaders of the fleet had a different attitude. At this moment, the giant Mosquito fleet was extremely nervous. Fortunately, the existence of Jia Yan, who was like a sea-fixing needle, was in the fleet, so that the entire fleet had a stable mood. Not long after, a fleet of more than 200 battleships appeared on the radar. Karma looked at the shadow of the fleet over there and took a sharp breath. At the same time, Kama's face appeared on the live broadcast in the media that he had contacted. Hello, viewers, I am Bella Kama, a member of the Orthodox royal family of Taia Kingdom. Taking a moment of your time, I believe that you all already know something about the tragic past of our country, Taia. I, Kama, have been hearing about the violent rule of the Tango clan during my time in exile. Today, the giant to which I belong has, after careful consideration, the Mosquito fleet finally decided to raise the banner to help the people. I, Bella Kama, hereby declare that the giant Mosquito fleet will declare war on the current regime of the Pacific Kingdom from this moment on. Kamana's big eyes were shining like stars, and she directly announced the earth-shattering news to the media. Reborn as an interstellar giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 695. In the space, more than 1,000 battleships shine with attack light. Apex novel. The more than 200 warships on the opposite side seemed to be poorly prepared, and their operations and personnel were obviously extremely chaotic. With the gap between numbers and command too large, they had almost no ability to resist. Sir, the other party has posted a surrender communication. Okay. We accept the surrender and count our losses at the same time. The giant Mosquito fleet that obtained the exiled soldiers of Dragon Bell Star Taia Kingdom can be said to have greatly increased its combat power. This battle did not use Kama's tactics of defeating Wei at all, but it was won so easily that even Jia Yan couldn't help but win in the camp-level spaceship. He took out the battle screen and looked at it in amazement. In this battle, the entire fleet actually had more reasonable tactics and layout than before. It can be seen that the appearance of Nefendali helped Kama a lot. While dealing with the more than 200 warships, the fleet did not suffer much damage. According to Jia Yan's final statistics, there were only 5 warships with varying degrees of damage, and there was no danger of being unable to be used. Our side won the battle without any damage, which can be described as a great victory. The response from the Pacific Kingdom was not unexpected. They widely exposed the inhumanity of the giant Mosquito fleet in the media. They attacked their fleet within a few minutes of just declaring war, and they also attacked warships that had not yet entered the establishment. Extremely shameful. However, their attitude did not affect the celebrations of the giant Mosquito fleet. You must know that this is the first battle against Taia Kingdom. Although there are suspicions of sneak attacks and taking advantage of people's danger, many former exiled Taia Kingdom soldiers said that this is how my family conquered Taia Kingdom. Now they are doing this just to treat others with their own way. There must be huge differences between the two parties. Jia Yan did not attend the celebration banquet because he also felt that this battle was not worth celebrating. After all, it was not a real battle. Fortunately, the results of the battle were extremely fruitful. Among the 200 temporarily new warships, more than 70 fell into the hands of the giant Mosquito fleet. Among the remaining damaged warships, more than 50 were slightly repaired. Then it can be used again. Of course, performance cannot be guaranteed. Lord Jiayan, my suggestion is to capture some strategic locations before Taia nation's internal reaction. Jiayan thought that Kama's two daughters would have a longer celebration banquet, but he didn't expect that the two of them came to Jiayan together within 2 hours of their victory. Strategic location, Jiayan looked at the two girls in surprise. Yes, I have discussed it with Kama. Our disadvantage is logistics and maintenance problems. This problem cannot be solved in a moment, but there is an easy solution to this problem, which is to quickly occupy one or two. It is an important enemy stronghold, and there must be a lot of resources there, and the people of the Pacific Kingdom already tend to Kama. As long as we occupy some important places in the former Pacific Kingdom, our problems will be easily solved. Fendalai took out her brain and pointed at the territory of Taia Kingdom. Jiayan thought about it and realized that this was indeed a good idea. After all, it was not easy for the giant Mosquito fleet to supply supplies from the outside world, and its international reputation seemed to be somewhat bad. If they want to get certain resources, they must pay a very high price. If we can obtain some important resource areas in Pacific Asia, this situation can be alleviated to a great extent. But isn't Taia a small country with only one planet? Jiayan asked strangely. Your Excellency, it seems that your understanding of Taia country is really lacking. Kama and Fendalai looked at each other, as if they realized how little Jiayan paid attention to their motherland. I didn't even read any basic information. After her explanation, Jiayan was surprised to learn that Jiayan really didn't understand much about this so-called small country. It turns out that the so-called one-planet territory of Taia Kingdom is only on the international label of the Northern Star Territory. In fact, this country has a total of 3 planets, but in addition to the Taia Star, the other 2 are just around the standard line of planets set by the Northern Star Territory. After that, the Northern Star Territory Alliance they are classified as second-class planets, but in fact, their role is not much different from that of planets. Because of their existence, the star field occupied by the entire Pacific Kingdom has suddenly been enlarged a lot. It's almost half a light year in diameter. And within this half a light year, there are even more large-scale interstellar materials, plus medium-sized and small-sized interstellar materials that are just enough for human habitation. It is even more numerous. There are only so many large interstellar materials that we can attack first. Of course, there are also some medium-sized interstellar materials that we can attack, but the effect is not great. Fendalai pointed to the light spots on the light screen and listed them one by one. It turns out that in the territory that surrounds the entire country of Pacifica, there are more than 80 habitable resource points that reach large-scale interstellar matter. Among them, there are more than 10 large-scale ones. If Jiayan looks at it, almost all of them are about the same size as the Moon. They are basically planets. It turns out that the entire Pacific Kingdom is such a big country. It is still a small country. In this northern star field, the definition of a big country is still beyond my imagination. Jiayan looked at the light spots in the light screen, shining one by one, feeling a little emotional in his heart. Huh? There is a scientific star city here. When Jiayan's eyes fell on a large star located at the edge of the country, his eyes suddenly froze. It turns out that there is actually a sample of a research institute marked on this large star. Here? Yes, on this planet, there is one of the top 10 scientific research institutes in Taia. However, it is on the border and is engaged in the research of cosmology. Are you interested here? Here it's not bad. It's the 9th largest star in Taia, and it's rich in resources. Fendalai obviously has better geographical knowledge than Kama, and she directly told the information about this star. Cosmology? Okay, let's put the first target here. Jiayan gave the order directly. Okay. Then we will regard this place as the first destination to capture. The Northern Star Territory is a star territory where wars often occur. There are very few wars in the entire star territory that can attract widespread attention within the star territory. But this time, a force called the Giant Mosquito Fleet actually attracted a lot of attention. Not only did this force want to capture a country, it was also because behind this force, the past of that country was involved. All these, coupled with the fact that he is a force from the outside world, make this Giant Mosquito Fleet very topical. Of course, many forces are still extremely resistant to the Giant Mosquito Fleet interfering in the internal affairs of the Northern Star Territory. Even the appearance of the subjugated Princess of Tadia Kingdom several times shows that the Giant Mosquito Fleet was only hired by her to become a force for her restoration. It's just an army, but there are still many forces that are extremely hostile to the Giant Mosquito Fleet. The Giant Mosquito Fleet seemed to have its own way of doing things. Just when almost all the surrounding forces had the same idea, which was to seal off the Giant Mosquito Fleet in terms of logistical resources, this fleet, which had no logistics at all, actually headed towards the sun within the borders of Asia. We marched directly there. Split the troops. Yes, the actions of our fleet within the territory of Tadia Kingdom can easily be controlled by the other party. After all, our numbers are too small. But if we follow the actions of the Star Thieves, then they will not be able to do much with us. Coupled with the relationships and popularity that Kama and I have within the Pacific Kingdom, even if we divide our forces, we will get a lot of help. While the fleet was moving, Findalai found Jia Yan and discussed with him the future actions of the fleet. You are right, but I also want to ask, our fleet is already very small in number. If you divide your forces again, will you be sure of victory when encountering the opponent's fleet? Or do you have any special methods? Jia Yan didn't have much trust in Findalai in front of him. Just like it took Kama a lot of time to gain Jia Yan's trust at first, he didn't trust this Bella tribe woman now. If Jia Yan hadn't had much control over the Giant Mosquito Fleet itself, it would have been impossible for this woman to easily gain command of the fleet at this moment. Even to a certain extent, compared to Kama seems to have a lot of power. Sir, you are right, but for Kama and I, this idea of dividing our troops has only advantages and no disadvantages. Kama and I have a relatively good reputation in Tadia Kingdom. If we divide our troops into two places, it can more effectively take over the forces that have taken refuge in Tadia. Then our attack on Tadia will only be faster, Findalai said patiently to Jia Yan. I hope you don't have other ideas. Jia Yan looked at her with a gleaming look in his eyes. You have been in contact with me for a while. You should know that I don't take power seriously, but that doesn't mean I like someone. Betray me, if you do this, you know my strength. Even if I kill you in the capital of Tadia, I will not let you live. I understand. Fendalai seemed to be slightly shocked by Jia Yan's aura, and then she took a deep breath. Even though she was a powerful mid-term starry sky expert, she was infinitely close to the venerable Jia Yan. He is still a bit unqualified in front of a strong man who has the ability to kill enemies beyond his level. I will not do anything that will displease you, my lord. You must understand that I just really want to return the motherland to the hands of the Beira people. On this day, the Giant Mosquito Fleet, which was already sparse in battleships, was actually divided into two groups. One group was led by Jia Yan and Kama and went to the planet where the research institute that Jia Yan wanted to occupy was located. Findalai, on the other hand, led a fleet of less than 300 warships, called the Second Army of the Giant Mosquito Fleet, in another direction. Kama, please forgive me for what I did. Jia Yan is too strong, so I must have some means to deal with him. When the fleet separated, Fendalai looked at the main fleet of the Giant Mosquito Fleet moving away. There was some reluctance in her eyes, but she was still very determined. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 696. Boom boom boom. A series of sharp rays of light shot through the sky and the earth. Under the shooting of these rays of light, the fleet in front was smashed to pieces. Apex novel. It's no longer possible. Report to Taya Star headquarters quickly. We can't stand it any longer. In the fleet that was attacked, an officer-like being could not help but say something helplessly. It was not my idea to fight against this giant mosquito fleet in the first place. Now that our strength is really no match for theirs, let's forget it. Declare it and surrender. Not long after, the entire fleet of about 500 warships surrendered. War in the starry sky is not that simple, and in the habitable area, the fleets of both sides cannot use some special fighting methods, so the winner will be determined very quickly. If the war takes place in an open area, it will not be so simple. The two fleets fighting in the starry sky are the giant mosquito fleet and the current fleet of the Pacific Kingdom. In the giant mosquito fleet, Jia Yan was watching Kama's operation. It seems that commanding space battles is really not my specialty. After watching it for so long, I still can't get used to commanding. However, with my current strength, ordinary fleets can't do anything to me. I'd better follow my own path of being strong. Jia Yan shook his head. In the past, he thought that his mind would be much easier to use after rebirth, and he wanted to become able to command battleships through learning, but now it seems that this is just his own good wish. Even if Karma's command doesn't use Piguo-Way tactics, it still has an extremely perfect feeling. Even in a head-to-head confrontation, she was no worse than Findalai, the former marshal of the Pacific Kingdom. The only difference she has is in the details. If she had a head-to-head confrontation, she really wouldn't necessarily lose to Findalai. Soon, the results of this large-scale group battle were presented to Jia Yan. As a fleet coming from afar, the giant mosquito fleet inevitably suffered casualties in this battle. Facing the opponent's 500 warships, the total number of giant mosquito fleet reached nearly 1,000. At this moment, about 20 warships actually appeared. Loss. Kama's command skills have been demonstrated very well in this battle, but the war at this moment is already between forces. Jia Yan has not dispatched, and Kama has not used Wei's tactics. It is not easy to win a battle. Fortunately, most of the more than 20 warships were not directly exploded, but most were damaged to a certain extent and could still be repaired. The most fortunate thing was that the number of combatants among them was not reduced. Sir, the other party obviously did not expect that we would be the first to attack here. This is the last defense on the entire research planet, and some of them surrendered. We have gained some troops, to the General Jia Yandeo. Today, Jia Yan personally observed her command, which put some pressure on Kama. Fortunately, nothing went wrong during the battle. Of course, Jia Yan didn't really want to learn Karma's tactics, let alone supervise her, but he was extremely looking forward to the outcome of today's battle. Fortunately, there were no choices in the battle. Okay. Kama, can we go to this planet now? Jia Yan stood up, seemingly impatient. Seeing Jia Yan's appearance, Kama knew that his leader today was not really interested in war, and he felt helpless. No, sir, the defense on this planet is really very strong. Generally speaking, we still need a certain amount of time to carry out a tough battle. Our ground forces are not mature enough today. I just wanted to put down the drone Mateo. Battle? No need, I'll go. After hearing that there were so many things, Jia Yan suddenly shook his head impatiently. Then he stood up directly regardless of what Kama said. Regarding his current strength, Jia Yan himself is somewhat unsure of the extent of it. A second-class planet with weak defenses, Jia Yan believes that his strength is enough to deal with it alone. Not long after, a huge body flew down. In the starry sky, the creatures in the entire star are looking at the bursts of flames above their heads in horror. For the creatures on this planet, they have seen a similar scene once, and only 3 short years have passed. A similar scene happened again. This is a scientific research star. At its peak, it was even responsible for more than half of the scientific research projects of Theta star. However, during the war 3 years ago, the scientific research structure on this planet suffered a fatal blow. Although the two warring parties had already tried their best to avoid damage to scientific researchers and equipment, but this cannot stop the loss and escape of scientific researchers. Even after 3 years of recovery, the originally very advanced scientific research institutions are still far from reaching their peak scientific research capabilities. Of course, this entire planet cannot be devoted to scientific research. In addition to 10% of the population working in scientific research-related jobs, the other 90% are in normal industries. Moreover, although this planet is named a subplanetary planet, such a star, but because its ocean area is not large, its actual land area is even larger than the Earth's land area. The name of this planet is Fire Star, because when it was discovered, this planet was just a planet full of volcanoes. After many years of reconstruction, it slowly turned into a livable planet. The people on the Fire Star looked at the scene of war that could be seen with the naked eye in space. Some people shook their heads helplessly and painfully. The war that this planet experienced 3 years ago made the people here miserable. They can still remember what happened 3 years ago. The soldiers of our clan rushed into the planet and carried out acts of burning, killing and looting. Princess Nakama came back today. Is she going to do something similar again? To be honest, people on the entire planet, although the Bella clan accounts for more than 90% of the population, they have no attachment to the old royal family. They will support the royal family that can make people live a good life. Originally, this place is far away from the city star and Theta star, and the loyalty to the royal family is not high. At this moment, I just want to stop the war from spreading. But what they didn't expect was that the attacking giant Mosquito fleet did not use conventional tactics. Instead, it was a lone monster that rushed directly into the star under the spotlight. The media on the Fire Star have already reported around the clock. You must know that there is no confidentiality in the actions of the giant Mosquito fleet. For interstellar wars, discovering the enemy fleet a few days in advance will not help the war situation at all. You must know that fleet mobilization is not that simple. The media that had been reporting a few days ago had some monitoring systems observing the actions of the giant Mosquito fleet. At this moment, they saw that the giant Mosquito fleet won the war above the airspace, but did not directly use ground troops. Instead, they flew from the fleet. A monster appears. That's Jia Yan? Oh my god, Jia Yan, the highest commander of the giant Mosquito fleet and their strongest man, is actually alone and coming directly to the bottom of the planet. Does he want to attack our planet alone? All the hosts in the media were extremely shocked. You must know that the strong creatures are not extremely terrifying, and technological weapons will have a certain impact on them. Some strong people will even be killed by technological weapons, not to mention this. Although Huo Liao star has gone through the flames of war, it is still a scientific research planet after all. After 3 years of deployment, it has regained its terrifying defensive weapons. Isn't it extremely dangerous for Jia Yan to come down? It's not that the media on this planet think that Jia Yan is easy to deal with. They even think that Jia Yan can defeat most of the defenses on this planet by himself, but this is still too risky for the top of the fleet. What they don't know is that the senior management of the giant Mosquito fleet have no choice. Jia Yan is a being who goes his own way. For this giant Mosquito fleet, they can only persuade Jia Yan to do whatever he wants. The slightest possible obstruction. Humph, starry sky defense. And when Jia Yan flew down, he saw terrifying fire lights appearing on some of the ground on the Fire Star, and then a glint of light flashed directly in his compound eyes. Huo Liao star is a star with an area larger than that of the Earth. At this moment, light appears in all directions on the entire planet, and it looks extremely beautiful from high in the sky. Shuttle. Jia Yan was not that stupid to resist the planet's defense. At this moment, he directly used the space shuttle technique. In the past, Jia Yan's shuttle moves were difficult to use in the stars, even though he was taught by the light and shadow monster. For example, when he escaped from the smoke monster before, although he used it, it was actually extremely dangerous and expensive. But now when I use it again, I feel like it is running smoothly. Suddenly, Jia Yan, who was approaching 50 kilometers above the star, disappeared directly. Then his body appeared at 40 kilometers. Don't underestimate this 10-kilometer dash. You must know that he is rushing into the star. This is just a 10-kilometer dash. It requires an extremely difficult control. His whole body dashed for 10 kilometers, not only dodging that the light of the saturation attack was so simple, but it also caused an earth-shaking change in Jia Yan's ability to control space at this moment. If it were in the past, he would never be able to carry out such a delicate space shuttle. How can it be? It's not that the defense agencies below don't know that Jia Yan has similar abilities, but they all know about the spatial abilities of strong people. Some creatures from scientific research institutions understand better that the understanding of space by beings like Jia Yan is based on really capable of understanding. And if you want to go further, you have to further your understanding of true energy. But Jia Yan's true energy, which seemed a little immature before, is now able to perform such terrifying and precise space operations. A well-known defense expert felt a sense of panic. They had a hunch that they couldn't stop Jia Yan today. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 697. Thanks to brother, let's give a chestnut for the 1000 starting coin reward. Apex novel. Sure enough, after Jia Yan used his space ability to enter the surface of the 10-kilometer land of Huo Liao star, he began to attack. 10 kilometers away, the defensive artillery fire from other places on the Earth could no longer attack him due to angle problems, but Jia Yan's attack power was just at this distance and could move most effectively. On the land of Fire Star, there are buildings with a strong sense of technology. These buildings are not very high, because the population on this planet is actually not large, so there is no need for such high buildings. But this does not mean that these buildings have no beauty. On the contrary, because of the vastness of the ground, the architectural style on the entire planet reflects a unique sense of beauty. In addition, coupled with the abundant firepower resources of Huo Liao star, the entire planet has free electricity, and with the unique use of stagnant sources, the entire star is beautifully arranged. Even after the war 3 years ago, this place is still extremely beautiful. I don't know if the scenery here would have been more beautiful 3 years ago. Jia Yan fell in love with this planet at first sight. But if you like it, and war is war. Jia Yan will not destroy the planned combat mission just because of his own preferences. In the sky above the planet, the creatures in the entire giant mosquito fleet were watching the scene nervously. Although Jia Yan was powerful, he could attack a planet single-handedly. For everyone in the giant mosquito fleet at this moment, they still didn't dare. Confidence. Some of them think that Jia Yan really thinks too highly of himself, and some of them think that Jia Yan, the leader, is not taking his own life seriously. The actual situation is that many members already think that Kama is the competent one in the giant mosquito fleet. Collar ideas. Of course, the strength of a strong person is the real guarantee of a power. Where is Jia Yan's strength? Not to mention that Kama has no intention of seizing power. Even if she really wants to do something, Jia Yan can make her do it. There was no chance of success at all, because after assessing his strength, Jia Yan had long believed that even if the giant mosquito fleet turned against him, he could directly destroy the giant mosquito fleet alone. Boom boom boom. Under the ground, military buildings exploded with explosions. Jia Yan used his brainwave power to fly from high altitude, and he flew extremely fast. Where he flew over, there were suspicious buildings where people died or exploded. There might be some accidental injuries, but Jia Yan's ability was able to control the accidental injuries within a reasonable range. The defensive weapons on the ground did not give up resistance, and various kinds of rays of light rose up to attack Jia Yan. But for Jia Yan, as long as he came to the ground, the opponent's attacks generally did not pose much danger. After all, saturation attacks at high altitudes can't hurt him, let alone small-scale attacks at this moment. The power of those attacks was not unpowerful. One attack did not fall on Jia Yan, nor did it fly into outer space like most attacks. Instead, it accidentally landed on a mountain. A roaring sound was heard from the whole mountain, and then the color of the sky and the earth changed, and the mountain disappeared directly into the air, without even a trace appearing. This scene even made Jia Yan's heart skip a beat. This weapon is the antimatter annihilation cannon that Kama mentioned, right? It's really dangerous if you get hit by a cannon. Fortunately, Jia Yan's strength is no longer frightened by artillery fire. The strength of this kind of weapon seems to be only available on the planet. It is not feasible to install it on a battleship. It should be a problem of energy. Jia Yan recalled what Kama said to him beforehand, and then he felt a little confused. Looking thoughtful. After capturing this planet, if there is a way to use this weapon on a battleship, it will be a breakthrough. It may be possible to deal with the most powerful domain-level aircraft carrier battleship in this star field. Jia Yan knew that in this northern star field, warships also had levels. Some warships were so powerful that they were divided into almost taboo levels. The domain level is the most terrifying one. Of course, only the top cross-domain forces, such as mercenary organizations, can possess such terrifying large-scale weapons. And if the defensive artillery fire in this star can be installed on the battleship, let alone being able to fight against domain-level aircraft carriers, just in terms of firepower, it may not lose too much. Of course, Jia Yan is not familiar with this thing, he is just thinking about it at the moment. Boom boom boom. Pieces of ground looked like they had been plowed by plows, with large-scale explosions and damage. Jia Yan's rapid advance was as strong as one person's ability to completely suppress the entire planet. Impossible, try your best to support me. This Jia Yan is just an ordinary strong creature. As long as it is a creature, his physical strength must be limited. If he can attack 1,000,000 square kilometers for me, it is impossible for him to persist for 2 days. 1,000,000, even if he can destroy weapons within 2,000,000 square kilometers, it is impossible to attack 5,000,000 square kilometers. Unless he is a venerable level monster, even the venerable level with the strongest endurance can only attack in such a large area at most. Jia Yan cannot hold on to 30,000,000 square kilometers of land for much longer. In a place with advanced equipment, Commander Huo Liaoxing looked at the giant mosquito monster on the screen with great anger. Only at this moment did he know that when he heard that the giant mosquito fleet was coming and he urgently reported it, those who knew the combat power of the giant mosquito fleet, the other senior officials of Tai Asia Kingdom, looked at him with such sympathy. Not to mention the giant mosquito fleet itself, just the strength of the monster Jia Yan is really not that powerful. Facing him, the commander actually felt as if he was facing a powerful half-star monster. Of course, the existence of a half-star strong person does not have to deal with this Huo Liao star. As long as this existence comes here alone and releases his powerful strength, the entire Huo Liao star will directly raise its hands and surrender. Even if it really resists, the opponent there will also be a brainwave power coming down. Oh, the brain power that exists at the semi-star level can no longer be said to be brainwave power, but a domain power. As long as this power is used directly, all the people on the entire Huo Liao star will be destroyed. Whoever wants to die is destined to die. This is the strength of a true semi-stellar powerhouse. Jia Yan is not so exaggerated at the moment, but he can't beat him. If he wants to exhaust his strength, it seems a bit unsatisfactory now. My Lord Governor, this Jia Yan has suppressed 2 million square kilometers of land, and his speed has not slowed down at all. No, this must be him holding on. As long as we resist for a while, the opponent will definitely give up the attack. How can his endurance be so strong? In the governor's mansion, the entire intelligence team was reporting on the progress of Jia Yan's attack all the time. As long as he attacks the place behind him, the communication there will definitely disappear directly. Jia Yan's attack can always fall on the communication equipment. At this moment, he doesn't know whether all the people there are dead, or Jia Yan showed mercy and did not kill him. Naturally, Jia Yan did not kill them. If the planet is attacked, Jia Yan will be able to start the research project he wants. Every life on the Huo Liao star may be something he needs to rely on in the future. With such power, how could he kill easily? At this moment, the power in Jia Yan's body was rumbling, and the power of his brainwaves was moving freely. The buildings under the earth were destroyed one by one. Except for a few people that Jia Yan considered to be threats, other Jia Yan tried not to kill them. This requires a lot of mental calculations. You must know that he is extremely fast. It only takes a few seconds to fly to one place. In these few seconds, he has to attack and make calculations. Even if he has the endurance of Jia Yan, the terrifying and exaggerated existence feels a little overwhelming. Fortunately, his progress this time was huge. Now that he was using his brainwave power to attack, he was still barely able to cope with it. Your Majesty the Governor, Jia Yan has suppressed 10 million square kilometers of land. When a soldier passed the surveillance and discovered that the land after Jia Yan's attack had reached a terrifying 10 million square kilometers, he looked at the fiery governor in shock. Looking for books. At this moment, Governor Huo Liaoxing just wants to cry and say one thing: everyone in the school is a liar. What about the theorem that experts below the Starry Sky Lord level do not have enough endurance to unleash large-scale attacks for too long? What about the theorem that the endurance of a strong monster cannot last? Now, this giant mosquito has invaded an entire area of 10 million square kilometers, which is a large area of the entire planet. That's right, at this moment, Jia Yan, relying only on himself, used the power of brain waves to bombard the 10 million square kilometers of land in this burning star in less than half an hour. If this were placed on the Earth, it would be a terrifying area larger than the size of China. Even though the surface area of the Huo Liao star is larger than that of the Earth, if it continues like this, it won't take more than a few and a half hours before it will be completely attacked by him. The governor looked at the figure of the powerful monster on the screen with some disbelief. Even though the opponent's body was only about 100 meters long, in the eyes of the governor, he was definitely bigger than a planet is even more terrifying. Can you capture a planet just by yourself? Combat prowess is one thing, but more importantly, his endurance is incredible. You know, this was something that only a half-star strong person could do in the past, and it was also very difficult for someone at the venerable level to do it. Wait a minute, as long as Jia Yan can attack 10 million square kilometers of land again, then, let's surrender, the governor said helplessly. It's not that he doesn't want to resist, but the other party's terror is beyond his imagination. This shocked not only the resisting soldiers on Huo Liao star, but also ordinary civilians, as well as the giant mosquito fleet above Huo Liao star, waiting for ground troops to support them. They were all directly shocked by Jia Yan's performance. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 698. The earth was devastated, and huge potholes appeared on the ground. This is already 2 days after the Huo Liao star war. Speaking of the war that day, the entire Huo Liao star people felt very sad. The battle that day really exceeded their imagination. Jia Yan's battle was also a battle that shocked the forces and people who were watching the situation in Taia. They saw a feat of one man fighting against the planet that they had only heard of in legends but rarely happened in reality. After all, that day during the war, Jia Yan almost suppressed the entire Huo Liao star by himself, and the strong endurance he showed was shocking. Although in the last battle, Huo Liao Xing surrendered directly after the other party attacked 20 million square kilometers of land, many scholars and experts have analyzed that if Jia Yan continues to fight, he will at least be able to survive. If the defensive facilities within 10 million square kilometers of Huo Liao star are destroyed again, they will be unable to continue. After all, as a powerful creature, it is very simple to see that Jia Yan still had great power at that time. But what about the actual situation? Jia Yan once thought about it himself. He knew his endurance. If he really fought, it would be absolutely possible to suppress the entire planet of the Fire Star. It's just that since the opponent surrendered that day, Jia Yan was happy not to have to use any force. After all, his endurance was also a trump card, so he could use it without using it. This is the second day after the war. Lord Jia Yan is so terrifying. Even within our giant Mosquito fleet, there are countless existences. This battle against Lord Jia Yan has caused panic. You must know that this is one person occupying one star. I have only heard of half-star strong men before. To be able to do it easily, even for a venerable level existence, requires a specific environment. In an empty docking port, part of the damaged warships of the giant Mosquito fleet were docked here. The members of the giant Mosquito fleet were talking about the battle a few days ago, and they all looked at Jia Yan with both fear and admiration. The exiled soldiers of the Bella clan who had just joined the giant Mosquito fleet did not know much about the strength that Jia Yan was slowly showing. Some soldiers were moving their giant bodies several meters tall at this moment, constantly asking other giant Mosquito fleets around them. Soldiers. Master Jia Yan, you are right to ask me. I have been following you since the deserted galaxy. Haha, what you don't know is that what makes you powerful is not his strength at all, but his talent. You can't even imagine it. Your Excellency, maybe a year or two ago, he was an existence that had just been promoted to the starry sky level. He was promoted to a high level in such a short period of time, and he was able to kill the venerable. After hearing this, you understand how talented he is, right? The new soldiers gathered around a veteran, and some of the Bella clan who had just joined were dumbfounded. Master Jia Yan was actually promoted within a few years? Impossible. Maybe he was just injured before and is slowly recovering now. It's possible what you said. In short, if his recovery speed is extremely fast, which starry sky level existence does not need years or even decades to recover from injury? Don't interrupt me. If you don't want to listen, please leave. The Bella clan soldier who interrupted the conversation shook his head angrily, stopped talking, and continued to listen. Regarding Jia Yan's enthusiasm, the entire giant Mosquito fleet has extremely terrifying enthusiasm. You must know that what Jia Yan did this time means that his strength has reached an unbelievable level in one breath. Originally, for the giant Mosquito fleet, an outsider, the existence of the giant Mosquito fleet, which was still waging war in the central area of the Northern Star Territory, at this moment they finally feel a little reassured about the future of the giant Mosquito fleet. Originally, they were worried that if the fleet did this, it might cause an attack by some forces in the Northern Star region. But with Jia Yan's current strength, what forces should not worry about it? Don't think that what you see now is all my strength. Maybe the strength I have now is enough to fight against the real venerable. Coupled with his wonderful space escape method, and his endurance, which one isn't the force afraid of our adults? If we offend him, even if the other party can destroy our giant Mosquito fleet, the adults will definitely be able to escape. When the time comes, we will go to the other force's home to cause a scene. Which force can bear it? So I think our giant Mosquito fleet, In this northern star field, except for those big forces with half-star level, no one has to be afraid, because Lord Jiayan is here. A famous giant Mosquito fleet soldier appeared with extremely good ideas about the future prospects of the giant Mosquito fleet. With a terrifying top powerhouse like Jiayan, and Kama's huge development potential, it would be very simple for the giant Mosquito fleet to carve out a path in the northern star field. But they thought so, but they didn't know that Jiayan, as a top powerhouse, actually didn't think so at all. At this moment, Jiayan was in a scientific research facility not far from these soldiers. Regarding the scientific research facilities on this planet, Jiayan has long known their specific locations, so he tried to avoid the more important places during previous attacks. At this moment, he, Moke and other senior officials of the giant Mosquito fleet came to the second largest scientific research base in Huoliao Star to take a look at some of the scientific research facilities and research results here. Master Jiayan, this is the latest achievement of this scientific research institute. We call it the clone condenser. However, for a strong man of your level, it is impossible for him to condense an individual that is too strong. Are you sure that what you need is him? A strange old man who looked like Einstein on Earth, swaying his snow-white hair, said to Jiayan. This strange old man was a top-notch scientific researcher in this scientific research institute. He was once the backbone of the scientific research community in Pacific Asia. However, because in a previous war, he supported the original royal family of Taia Kingdom, and even after Kamo lost the previous battle, he publicly said that the Tengo clan was bastards who wanted to steal national weapons, and then he was assigned to this fire star. The inferior scientific research institute is here. Fortunately, the other party's scientific research capabilities are still there. Some of the research in this scientific research institute has long exceeded the facility level of his own scientific research institute. The equipment he is introducing is one of them. Fortunately, the other party was very loyal to Kama, so he didn't hide much about Jiayan's arrival, and directly led Jiayan and his party to the highest research product. Huh? This is the so-called clone device. Jiayan looked at the machine in front of him with some surprise. He had long known that there was similar technology in the Northern Star territory, but when Jiayan actually saw the real thing, he was still a little amazed at the power of the scientific research technology here. This is a piece of equipment that you can tell is not made of very good materials. Huge pipes are interspersed in it, and some unknown foam is rolling, as if something hugely poisonous is constantly swimming in it. The entire equipment is about 200 meters high, and the space in the middle will be able to accommodate Jiayan's appearance of avoiding entry. At this moment, he looked at the liquid in the device and felt the terrifying power contained in it, which could even allow him to absorb the nutrients of mutation. However, there is not much of this energy that can be absorbed, and it will be unnecessary for Jiayan's next mutation, so he has no intention of actually absorbing it. It's just that Jiayan's demand for energy at this time is extremely terrifying. This energy can be absorbed by him, which is enough to see its uniqueness. Sir, this clone device is just imitated by me based on the clone device on Taia Star. Each time it is used, it consumes extremely huge energy and causes great harm to the user. Sir, if you are not in a hurry, I suggest you don't use it. The existence similar to Einstein said directly to Jiayan. It doesn't matter. Let me check first. You said that another scientific research institute has also made progress in research on space transfer technology. Is it true? Jiayan looked at the clone device, and no one knew what he was thinking. Sir, I know this, answered on the side. As someone who had previously taken inventory of Huoliao Star's supplies and facilities, she knew the scientific research institutions on Huoliao Star better than the old man. After all, scientific research institutions are very important to Thai Asia. It's a secret. Some scientific research institutions have never been in contact with each other. No one knows what facilities there will be on the entire Huoliao star. Seeing Jia Yan's interested expression, Kama told Shiyuan where the other facility was. That's a scientific research institute 5,000 kilometers away from here. It specializes in space science. I've heard before that a precedent method of ultra-long-distance teleportation was developed there. It's been 3 years now, and I don't know if there has been a breakthrough in this research, Karma said with some uncertainty. Okay. Let's go there. Also, prepare this facility as soon as possible. I might come over and build a clone soon, Jia Yan said to the old man calmly. After that, the group of people left directly, leaving only the old man who looked like Einstein. First it was the Taya kingdom, then it was the Tango clan, and now it is the giant Mosquito clan. Annoying, the old man scratched his scalp impatiently, and then shook his head helplessly. Even though he was a scientist, he couldn't help, but there is no way to be trapped in politics. He began to give instructions and carry out the work of the clone. Jia Yan and his party, on the other hand, were flying super fast under the power of Jia Yan's brainwaves. Sir, why are you so anxious to want these things? Kama was beside Jia Yan, a little surprised that Jia Yan seemed to have determined his goal from the deserted galaxy. She had known for a long time that what Jia Yan wanted was the two technologies of Taya Kingdom's powerful clone and super long-distance teleportation. She had heard earlier that there was a research base suspected of having these two technologies on Huoliao star, so she directly decided to attack here. Now that the attack has really come down, the results of the research will soon be available. She thinks that Jia Yan's ideas will be shown in front of their eyes. Because, I want to see my hometown as soon as possible, Jia Yan looked at the few beings around him, and then seemed to sigh. Home. Several senior members of the giant Mosquito fleet looked at each other in confusion at this moment. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 699. Lord Jia Yan, this is the ultra-long-distance space transmission device we have developed. There has been a test of transmitting a building to the edge of the Northern Star Territory. It was rated as one of the top 10 scientific researches in the Northern Star Territory that can change future life. One of the results. In a strange and huge building, a lady from the Bella tribe introduced the equipment around her to Jia Yan and others. Among the big Mosquito group at this moment, and a few others have already left due to government affairs. After all, what Jia Yan wants is not of much benefit to them, and it seems that Jia Yan's idea is to leave the Northern Star Territory. For them, it's somewhat unacceptable. Oh, I don't understand the finer things. It is said that your facility can achieve ultra-long-distance transmission by distorting space, right? I don't understand the principle of space, but as a being who is proficient in space, I think space it's not that easy to distort. Can your facility really enable ultra-long-distance teleportation? After all, distorting space requires a lot of power. Jia Yan now arrived at the boundary 5,000 kilometers away as mentioned before. There is another scientific research institution here that is basically similar to the previous one, and the person in charge here does not have much resistance to Jia Yan's arrival. Jia Yan was not polite, but made some inquiries about the woman in front of him, the leader of the Space Research Institute. Lord Jia Yan, you don't know something. Distorting space is the mainstream of interstellar navigation in the future, and my way of distorting space is a step beyond this mainstream, but this transmission is one way. His principle is not to distort space as you think, but to perform more complex calculations and distortions through the existing small holes in the space. Later, ultra-long-distance transmission was achieved. The woman didn't hide much from Jia Yan's inquiry and directly stated the principles of the research. For these scientists, everyone understands simple things, but it is not that simple to study the real thing. At this moment, Jia Yan thought carefully about the other party's words, and then asked solemnly, "Then let me ask you, can this set of equipment allow objects to travel across a distance of more than 10,000 light years? More than 10,000 light years? There is really no precedent for this. And for such a long distance, what can be calculated is only a rough space distortion tunnel. The location of the crossing cannot be guaranteed to be absolutely accurate. More importantly, the energy required will be consumed. It's an astronomical figure." The woman seemed to have made a secret calculation and told Jia Yan the exact difficulty. She didn't directly say it was impossible, this was already the result Jia Yan wanted. "The placement is not accurate. Please tell me how inaccurate it is. Then there are resources. I wonder how much you need? If it is not an extremely terrifying amount, I will find a way." Sir, do you really want to do such a teleportation? Not only the calculation method, but also the size of the teleported object and the amount of energy carried are huge limitations. If you really want to do such a transmission, I hope to establish a dedicated research team, and then you put forward specific requirements, and we will make calculations and arrangements. This woman also seemed a little interested in Jia Yan's words. After all, similar teleportation might be an unprecedented feat in the northern star field. If they can succeed, it will be a milestone in the history of science. The scientific research institutions in the two places started directly after Jia Yan's big victory. Compared with the expectations and excitement of the existence of Jia Yan, for the senior officials of the giant Mosquito fleet, Jia Yan's enthusiasm at this moment is somewhat less comfortable. They relied too closely on Jia Yan, and no one had thought about where the giant Mosquito fleet would go if Jia Yan wanted to leave the Northern Star territory. Don't worry. I didn't really intend to leave this place. Even if I want to return to my hometown, I won't be my true self. Continue your strategy, but not in the near future. I have to stay here and wait for those two research results of individual institutions." When Kama and others were worried about Jia Yan suddenly walked out of the institute one day, said these words of comfort to Kama, and then returned to the institute to cooperate with the work. This short sentence was an extremely exciting word for the senior leaders of the giant Mosquito fleet. They put aside their previous worries and continued the operation to capture the Pacific Kingdom. In fact, Jia Yan definitely did not tell them this if he could return to Earth. Rather, he had learned through the light and shadow monster earlier that this method of transmission would not allow his true body to directly return to Earth. "Sir, are you sure that the size of the clone you want to make is a Bella Clan appearance of about 1.75 meters? In the Clone Research Institute, the Einstein-looking being had some strange requests towards Jia Yan. "That's right, but you have to ask about the spatial fluctuation data of the other research institute. The strength of the body must be able to resist the spatial waves during transmission. If not, continue to increase the density of the body. Of course, if it can carry my greater power, that would be better. Okay, it's just that for a body of such a size, if you want to increase the strength, you need to plan carefully." The scientist was a little helpless at Jia Yan's request. After all, the greater the size, the greater the strength. This theorem is it's hard to break, but Jia Yan's request is here, and there are also restrictions from the Space Research Institute. Objects that are too big cannot be teleported too far, so they have to cooperate. Fortunately, the technology here at the Clone Research Institute is perfect. After all, it has helped many powerful people to make clones before. Even the existence of the desolate galaxy can use money to make clones on the capital star of the Pacific Kingdom. This is like a fire. Although Seeing's equipment is inferior, the developer himself was here at the time, and the finished product is definitely not too different. The other side is a little more difficult. The technology of ultra-distance teleportation in space is still a technology under development and imagination in this star field. In particular, Some difficulties in ultra-long-distance transmission are somewhat difficult to overcome for the current research institute. What surprised those scientific researchers at this moment was that Jia Yan, who seemed to have no scientific knowledge at all, actually produced better scientific research materials, which directly allowed them to break through the existing barriers. Naturally, Jia Yan would not say that these technologies were produced by light and shadow monsters. At this moment, he had some mysterious feelings about these existences. In particular, the two research institutes compared the data and found out that the place Jia Yan wanted to teleport to was an extremely distant 10,000 light-years away. There are some guesses about the place where this being came from, and about the unknown place called the Arm of the Immortals by adults. I feel that there is a civilization where technology and even powerful people are extremely developed and prosperous. The feeling of Earth. Of course, Jia Yan would not tell them that even if the people were in trouble, Jia Yan would not tell them that to the civilizations and powerful people here, the heroic arm was just a barren land. Maybe even the power of a galaxy in the barren galaxy could sweep across the British Empire. Immortal arm. After creating a false image of an extremely civilized place, Jia Yan continued to provide guidance and supervision to the two research institutes. The giant Mosquito fleet has not stopped attacking the star territory of Taia in these days. After all, once the war chariot is started, it is not that simple to stop it. The giant Mosquito fleet benefited from its own mobility and the fact that it had just begun the early stages of the war and had an unexpected characteristic. Their offensive at this moment was extremely smooth. The identities of Comma and Findalai also played a huge role in this process. Some people in the captured areas even helped the giant Mosquito fleet attack. Some people spontaneously formed civilian combat teams to help the giant Mosquito fleet achieve greater results. During this period, countless epic stories happened, and some spies also carried out sabotage and heroic battles with each other. Countless stories can almost be used to make many alien war movies. In the blink of an eye, the war has entered the middle stage, and the giant Mosquito fleet, an outsider fleet, has been marching in Taia for a month. In this month, using Comma's identity, the giant Mosquito fleet occupied 10 large and medium-sized stars. It can be said that he has firmly established his footing. At this moment, the war has turned into a battle of territorial control, and the existence of the Pacific Kingdom also has a feeling of helplessness against the giant Mosquito fleet. Countless forces in the surrounding area were condemning the inhuman attack of the giant Mosquito fleet, but they did not take any action. After all, for them, this kind of thing was just a replica of 3 years ago. Some envoys were also secretly coming and going at this moment. On the territory where the giant Mosquito fleet stands firm, they are exchanging interests and agreements with the giant Mosquito fleet. Of course, Jia Yan only had a brief understanding of the current war situation, and would not care too much about it from now on. With the supplies of 10 large and medium-sized stars, the research work here on Huo Liao star has progressed extremely quickly. Within a month, it has almost reached the stage of actual use. Sir, your clone is already in the final stage of solidification. However, are you sure you want this appearance? It seems that this appearance is a little different from us Bella people. One day, Jia Yan had just flown out of the Space Research Institute. The old man who looked like Einstein brought good news to Jia Yan through the communicator. Huh? Will the production be successful? Jia Yan was overjoyed at first. Then he calmly said to the old man, the appearance is just like that. I am not a clone made according to your Bella tribe. In short, just do it like this. The appearance is correct. Just make sure that the energy load will not go wrong. Compared with appearance, Jia Yan values the energy carrying capacity of the clone more. Don't worry, sir. The avatar technology is already a relatively mature technology in our country. With the help of a large amount of supplies, this development will definitely meet your requirements. The old man seemed a little angry at Jia Yan's suspicion. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 700. That's good, then only the Space Research Institute will be left, right? After Jia Yan nodded, he looked behind him at the Space Research Institute that he had just left. In a daze, his eyes seemed not to be looking there, but through the huge equipment, and saw it carrying Jia Yan's clone back to the blue planet that he dreamed of. Time passed extremely quickly, and the production of clones and the construction of space equipment came to the final finishing stage. At this moment, Jia Yan had become familiar with a large number of scientific researchers, and he slowly came to know that the beings of the Bella family seemed to be the remnants of the Earth. From several precious pieces of information, Jia Yan learned that the Bella clan and the original Kudatan clan were the same alien race, and there was almost no difference at first. But in this prosperous star field, the Kudatan clan chose technology and moved farther into the starry sky. After that, the difference between the two clans became more and more serious. Although the Bella clan took the road of technology and strength, it was difficult, but they have firmly gained their status in the northern star territory, while the Kudatan clan has almost completely disappeared after being popular for a while. Jia Yan looked at the information about the two races in his hand with some emotion. In fact, in his opinion, there is really not much difference between the two races. The only difference is that the Bella race can practice, while the Kudatan race does not. It's just cultivation. If 1 or 2 generations receive the same education, maybe the two will be exactly the same. Sir, the clone is ready. A voice contacted Jia Yan through the communicator. Okay, I'll go there. Jia Yan nodded slightly and then closed the communication. This is already the 50th day since arriving in this fiery star, and the war in the entire Pacific Kingdom has also become very intense. It is difficult for the giant Mosquito fleet to gain a foothold in the first step, but with Jia Yan's force guarantee, coupled with the command and combat capabilities of Kama and Findalai, even if there are some crises, Jia Yan's force value will be able to the last weapon to make a comeback. After several times like this, relying on the reputation of the two of them, within 50 days, the giant Mosquito fleet finally occupied about 1/5 of the starry sky in the Pacific Star Territory. And the north, this vast star road was completely cut off by the giant Mosquito fleet. The country of Tadia has begun to be in chaos. After all, it is a stolen national weapon, and the chaos at this moment is almost shaking the foundation. In fact, a small country can win a war quickly and lose quickly. Of course, the current royal family of Tadia Kingdom still has many tricks. It is said that they are urgently contacting certain forces and seem to be selling some interests to obtain help from the other party. Jia Yan doesn't have much time to care about the progress of the war. His goal is about to be achieved, and he is even willing to give up on the future. The only purpose is to return to that blue home and see my loved ones again. Hearing that the clone was ready, Jia Yan's body floated into the sky, and his body with high-level starry sky-level energy flew gently to the sky without a trace of fireworks. As he has become stronger for longer and longer, Jia Yan's body is no longer as powerful and domineering as before, but has a calm and gentle feeling. It seems that in the past, he used his strength to intimidate the enemy unconsciously, but now he has a kind of indifference, which is the demeanor of a strong man. Jia Yan's strength may not be at the level of a venerable, but after more than 50 days of growth, he has slowly digested his former strength. The light and shadow monster said more than once that he was a real genius, and even if his master was resurrected, it would be difficult to compare with him. Jia Yan continued to fly. At this moment, as long as he radiated his brainwave power slightly, it would be difficult for the powerful people around him to detect his presence. Even if the huge body of the Mosquito flew over his head, it would be almost impossible to detect him. His strength is not just a little bit strong, but a huge amount of growth. Grown-ups. After a period of flight, Jia Yan came to a renovated research institute. The giant Mosquito fleet occupies an increasingly larger star field, and more resources can be used. The research institute on the Huo Liao star is becoming more and more impressive. It is not just a research institute that Jia Yan is taking care of. Even other research institutes have more and more resources. After all, scientific research cannot be solved by one or two research institutes. Some things require the support of an entire industry. Fortunately, Huo Liaoxing is already a developed scientific research star. Now, with the support of Jia Yan, a very powerful person, the scientific research industry is developing at an unprecedented rate. I believe that in just a few years, it may be able to form a star similar to that of Tai-Asia star. Comparable to a super large-scale scientific research star. Naturally, this was not what Jia Yan was paying attention to at this moment. He flew down, and the gray-haired old man was already waiting on the ground. When he saw Jia Yan landing, he immediately came forward respectfully. As a scientific researcher, he didn't value power that much, but Jia Yan not only brought him his former identity, but also brought him all the conveniences, which of course made him more respectful to Jia Yan. You said the clone has been successfully made, right? Go and have a look. Jia Yan didn't treat him politely. The other party was just talking verbally. If he really encountered scientific research problems, he would also argue with Jia Yan. The two traveled together, and the researchers and scholars along the way had great respect for Jia Yan. Arriving at a place that seemed to have been reloaded with some machinery, the gray-haired old man pressed an identity verification button, and then an iron door slowly opened. This iron gate is so tall that even Jia Yan can easily enter it. Behind the iron gate, beams of brilliance shine on the ground. It seems that this brilliance is not an ordinary light, but is like life, nourishing everything under the light. After Jia Yan and the old man like Einstein entered the gate, the iron gate behind them was closed. They entered the research place directly. The scientific researchers inside were running back and forth, and they were not surprised at all when they saw Jia Yan's arrival. After all, Jia Yan, a big mosquito, didn't come here every 3 days, so this would be strange. In fact, the scientific researchers here have understood Jia Yan's request, that is, the powerful leader who is about to occupy the Taia kingdom seems to want to build a powerful clone of himself, but the size of this clone is a bit different. Contrary to their expectations, the other party did not make a strong request, but asked that the size of the clone be controlled in a container body that was not even big to them. At this moment, this body is placed in the center of the hall. This is a young Chinese-looking man. At this moment, he has a naked body and gray-black hair. His entire body was soaked in the container, and pieces of strange liquid enveloped him. Strange instruments were also wandering around in the body at this moment, as if they were going to penetrate countless holes. Jia Yan looked at this body, and his steps seemed a little difficult. Facing countless battleships and invincible strong men, he would not hesitate at all. But at this moment, he seemed to have difficulty moving. It took him 7 or 8 steps to come. When he came to this container and looked inside, it seemed to him that it was just a human body the size of a compound eye. This is my clone. Jia Yan looked at the human body in the container with emotion. This face looked a bit like him before he was reborn. But after all, Jia Yan had been reborn for so long and had forgotten a lot about his own appearance, so the face of this body looked almost like his former self. Himself, the other 2 or 3 points are somewhat unfamiliar. He is not handsome by any means, but he has the same magnanimity as when he was a mosquito, calm and majestic. Sir, this clone was made according to your requirements, aren't you satisfied? The old man next to him looked a little ugly. You must know that they have spent countless energy on this clone. If Jia Yan said lightly, Piao Piao said he was dissatisfied, and if he asked them to do it again, he might get angry directly. Not satisfied? No, no, I'm very satisfied. I couldn't be more satisfied. Jia Yan was stunned for a moment, then immediately shook his head. To be honest, Although this body is not very similar to his before rebirth, it can be roughly seen that it looks like a person, but it is more magnanimous and has a vague sense of maturity. It is impossible for Jia Yan not satisfied. Okay, sir, do you want to activate him immediately? With all due respect, activating an ordinary clone will greatly reduce the strength of the strong man. And this body is still customized by you, his activation difficulty is even more terrifying. I suspect that based on your strength, after activating him, he will fall into a period of weakness that lasts for half a month, the gray-haired old man said. Jia Yan, you don't have to worry. His calculations are for ordinary high-level experts. Your endurance and strength completely exceed his calculations. I have seen the clone structure diagram here. Although it is relatively primitive, it has little impact on your strength. Of course, you will definitely be weak, but it will only reduce your strength to the level 2 months ago at most. I estimate that you will be able to fully recover in about half a day. The light and shadow monster was in Jia Yan's body and spoke directly to Jia Yan. Half a day? Haha, then if I am weak, that existence should seize the opportunity to appear, right? Just in time to resolve the grievances during this period. Jia Yan thought for a while and then said with certainty. Activate the clone now. The gray-haired old man listened to Jia Yan's words and nodded without any surprise. He had already expected Jia Yan's expectations for this clone. At this moment, Jia Yan would be anxious to activate the clone. It was completely within his expectation. Sir, please first understand the rules for activating the clone. This clone is probably the carrier of your brainwave power. You will need to use a lot of your brainwave power later to activate this body. This body is equipped with our ultra-long-distance quantum entanglement communication method, allowing you to control it even at an extremely long distance. Of course, this involves some metaphysics, and some of it is the ancient northern star field. Even if we can't crack the technology passed down, adults just need to know the principles. Thank you to the book Friends of 6 Minutes Heat for your 2000 starting coins, Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito author, Bulletin U. Chapter 701. 2 million kilometers outside the Huo Liao star, a warship so close to the Huo Liao star docked here without being discovered. The battleship couldn't see his appearance clearly, only that its entire body was shrouded in smoke. The huge hull was completely covered in smoke, and no trace could be revealed. The effect of the smoke seems to be to make the battleship invisible. At such a close distance from the Huo Liao star, it should have been discovered by the star detector, but it has been here for an unknown period of time without any trace of discovery. No. It seems that Jia Yan is about to perform the so-called clone operation. It is said that many strong people are unwilling to create clones. That is, the operation of this clone will not only cause permanent damage to the body, but also cause a long period of weakness. Many strong men were killed by the enemy during that period of weakness, and if Jia Yan does this, then it will be my best chance. In the battleship, a monster whose entire body was shrouded in smoke was continuously exhaling smoke in the battleship's operation cabin. The basic data on the Huo Liao star was displayed on the operation screen of his battleship. He didn't know how the monster got the information about Jia Yan's preparation for the clone operation. The battleship moved slowly. Under the flaming stars, people on the Earth did not know that a being who might be more terrifying than Jia Yan was about to arrive, but they were still living their lives. Nearly 2 months have passed under the rule of the giant Mosquito fleet. The people on the Fire Star have discovered that life has not changed much under the rule of the giant Mosquito fleet. Moreover, because of the existence of Princess Kama, the sense of belonging has become even stronger. In this way, for the residents of the Fire Star, it doesn't matter whether they are ruled by the giant Mosquito fleet or not. At this moment, the giant Mosquito fleet actually doesn't have many troops on the Fire Star. With Jia Yan, a top-level being, in charge, Kama must be very relieved. What is that? How could a battleship appear from such a close place? Send an alarm quickly, on Huo Liuxing's detection system. The moment the powerful battleship appeared, its whereabouts were discovered. Suddenly, the alarm sounded loudly. And at this moment, on the land of the Research Institute, Jia Yan was just making final preparations. Because the news would lag a bit, Jia Yan did not receive the alarm message at this moment. And even if he gets it, in order to attract this enemy, he might also carry out this clone operation. The huge clone container has been emptied of the liquid inside. At this moment, the humanoid clone has arrived in a machine. Looking at the body of about 76 meters, Jia Yan nodded with emotion, and then his huge body cautiously came to the side of the body. "Sir, you just need to transfer the brainwave power into this device," the gray-haired old man said to Jia Yan. Jia Yan looked at the device he pointed at that was connected to the instrument above the clone's head. After nodding, he activated his power. He didn't have any doubts. He had been waiting for nearly 2 months and was a little impatient. Sizzle. The sound of electric current was transmitted from the device. Jia Yan felt that his power was directly absorbed from the device he transferred to it, and he also felt that the holding capacity of the device was not enough to resist his own power. If he used a little more force, it might explode directly. Possible. So he tried his best to control his power and pass it on carefully. The speed of this transmission is extremely slow, and Jia Yan looked at the sky with some worry, as if his perception reminded him that the uninvited guest had already arrived. But Jia Yan was not distracted at all. What he needed to worry about at the moment was the production of the clone. "Sir, it only takes 3 minutes to complete. Please support me." The old man was on the side, mistakenly thinking that Jia Yan was not strong enough to resist the suction. Of course, what he didn't know was that Jia Yan still had some spare strength at this time, and it was not what he thought at all. He was completely absorbed by the power of this machine. Because the power of this machine was too weird, many powerful people quickly stopped transmitting it or directly destroyed the machine. He was worried that Jia Yan would do the same. Fortunately, Jia Yan did not do this. "Jia Yan, the suction power of this machine is what I thought. Even if you transfer the power directly, you still have more than half of your power available, which is enough to fight the coming guy for a while." The light and shadow objects in Jia Yan's body, facing Jia Yan has some ideas. Jia Yan nodded secretly, but before he could think about anything more, he was suddenly shocked. It turned out that in the thick clouds above the Research Institute, a huge battleship was slowly approaching. What to do, Jia Yan thought solemnly. There was still 1.5 minutes before the transmission was completed. If he stopped, let alone failed, the clone and the machine he had finally made might be damaged. The other party's ability to grasp this timing is worthy of being a second level. "Sir, I will go to meet the enemy first." Just when Jia Yan was wavering, the voice of an existence reached Jia Yan's ears. He was slightly startled, and then he saw warships flying directly over the flaming land. There are also anti-aircraft fires on the ground, which are also shot out with coverage. Compared with Jia Yan's initial defense level when he invaded Huo Liao Star, it seems that the defense level is not bad at all. Boom boom boom. Countless artillery fires blasted out from the ground, and the approaching battleship overhead barely had any time to react before being hit hard by the bombardment. Of course, things can't be that simple. The other party is a strong person with rankings. The smoke surrounding the battleship seemed to be extremely strange. At this moment, beam shots came in, but they dissipated directly, as if it was impossible to carry out normal attacks on it. The battleship below rose into the sky, and the main gun light that attacked the battleship was also unable to harm it in the slightest. "Humph, you ants," a cold snort resounded from the battleship, and then a terrifying brainwave power directly controlled the world and the environment, vaguely intending to control the entire planet in his hands. And the target of this brainwave power is the warship that attacks it, and even the ordinary existence on the ground command platform, it is the target of his influence. Under normal circumstances, it would be easy for this existence to destroy Huo Liaoxing like Jia Yan, even easier than Jia Yan originally. Because he is a strong person in the second level. At this moment, this brainwave power was used, and the whole earth shook faintly. Jia Yan, I've been waiting for this opportunity for so long, and this is the first time I've waited for the opportunity where you may not be able to travel through space. You can't escape, the fog monster laughed proudly, and at the same time, with its brainwave power, it fiercely they flocked to the battleships, command podiums and other military facilities below. It's impossible for me to escape. Did you do something wrong? I finally lured you out. A strong man from the giant Mosquito fleet or the Huo Liao star who had taken refuge felt that his body could not move. At the same moment when he was about to die, Jia Yan's voice also boomed loudly from below the earth, like that immovable mountain. As his voice came out, the violent atmosphere in the entire world seemed to be directly smoothed out by an invisible hand. The sky was still the sky, the earth was still the earth, and the strong men and battleship members were still ordinary members. The previous experience of being oppressed by brainwave power and almost dying was as if it had never happened. The being in the sky seemed extremely shocked. Where Jia Yan's brainwave power passed through, his brainwave power was directly smoothed out, and everything after that returned to its original state. Not only this existence, but also the Xingkang level experts on the ground were extremely shocked at this moment. These experts were all native Xingkang level people on Huo Liao star, or those who had surrendered. Most of their strength is in the early stage of Starry Sky. When this being attacked before, they all wanted to show off in front of Jia Yan. You must know that Jia Yan's existence is basically invincible in Taiya Kingdom. If nothing else, Taiya Kingdom they might actually be captured by the giant Mosquito fleet, so they wanted to flatter this great being. But what they didn't expect was that when they attacked, they discovered that the one who came to attack was actually a I don't know how terrifying it is. This existence just released the power of his brain waves, and almost suppressed the entire world. They didn't know how powerful this existence was, but they knew that this was definitely not an ordinary venerable, even maybe it's not the venerable, but a being above. A strong person in second level? Thinking of this, the Xingkang level ones who took action felt extremely regretful. If they had known that there were strong people from the next level taking action, they would never have been able to help Jia Yan. But just when their hearts were filled with despair, the giant Mosquito Jia Yan, whom they hated so much, actually used his brainwave power. This is a power that is even more incredible to them. Jia Yan, who was just a high-level expert, actually directly used the opposite brainwave power to have a head-on confrontation with the incoming sub-level expert. What shocked them even more was that the power of this brainwave actually cancelled out each other and was on par with the strong man in Guan this time. How is it possible? You have actually taken this step. In the sky above the sky and the earth, the extremely great second-level powerhouse existed, and in the smoke that enveloped the land for thousands of kilometers, he let out an unbelievable scream. The presence of smoke in the battleship at this moment is really unbelievable. Although it was the brainwave power from before, he didn't use all his strength, and it shouldn't have been something that a high-level being like Jia Yan could resist. But the other party not only resisted, but he seemed to feel extremely comfortable, which was completely beyond his expectation. This is not something that high-level experts can do. But, Your Holiness, Jia Yan actually took that step? But the information I got said that he was promoted to a high-level powerhouse in just a few years, right? It's impossible. This low-level powerhouse was stunned by Jia Yan's rapid improvement in strength. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 702. No pop-up ads forever. Please bookmark it and recommend it to your friends. No, this guy is the one who has mastered that secret. Maybe it was that secret that made him grow so fast. Yes, now I have greater expectations for the secret of promotion that he may have mastered. When the smoke expert thought of this, he immediately recovered from the shock, and then his eyes revealed a look of madness. So what if you reach the level of a venerable? I want you to know that even a powerful person at the venerable level is nothing more than a chicken and a dog in front of me. I can crush him to death with just one hand. Jia Yan heard that he had misjudged himself and didn't have many thoughts of deceiving him. AP, instead he said. Venerable? No, I haven't reached the level of venerable yet. I'm only one step away. I'll just use today's battle with you to take that step. Boom boom boom. An extremely loud vibrating sound instantly flashed between the heaven and the earth, and the suppressed power from high places fiercely squeezed the air downwards. The smoke expert used extremely terrifying power in the high air. The buildings under the earth were shaking for a while, and some strong men were unable to resist the power at this moment and spurted out blood. Haha, you haven't reached the level of venerable yet? Then it's even more impossible to resist me. The sound coming from above the sky sounded faintly. The entire world within 1,000 miles is controlled by it, and the further down the battleship goes, the greater the power of this control becomes. I'm not talking about whether you are stronger than me. I'm just saying that you are still releasing your power. If you can use half of your power, you are considered powerful. Just surrender honestly. Jia Yan was on the ground, sighing softly in his heart. The opponent was indeed a powerful second-level expert. The timing of the battle at this moment was very accurate. He was still in the process of releasing his power. If interrupted, his clone will fail. This is the importance of combat experience, but, does he really think that this can limit my escape? Jia Yan smiled softly. After that, a new brain power surged out of his body, and the energy control in the world changed again. You actually still have this kind of power. The strong man in the smoke had already arrived in the sky above the research institute on a battleship, and the surrounding strong men and warships were directly blocked by his brainwave power, making it impossible to get even one step closer. AP. Come out. He shouted loudly, and the terrifying energy from the battleship surged hard again. Boom. The entire institute was like a level 20 typhoon, with countless research equipment blown away. Some low-level researchers were struck by the force and fainted. Fortunately, when some of these researchers were about to hit the wall or the ground, a force appeared and protected them lightly. Do you still have some energy left? The battleship that came from the sky was a full kilometer long, and just when it landed less than 100 meters above the ground, a long leg slowly poked out of the battleship. When a strong person reaches the level of a sub-level strong person, the strong person uses battleships just as tools to ride on. Although the battleships are not weak in combat effectiveness, they are not as powerful as the strong person himself. At this moment, this smoke expert was controlling the world while slowly appearing. Click, click, click. Even the atoms and molecules in the air were unable to resist its power, causing cracks and damage. The sound echoed everywhere. The ground also cracked, and the buildings of the research institute collapsed one after another. The research institute that Jia Yan and other beings had spent a lot of time building was completely destroyed in a matter of seconds. Not long after, the smoke monster appeared in the sky above the research institute. His figure was completely shrouded in smoke. The smoke that appeared one after another seemed to be part of his body, directly controlling the world. After that, various existences were directly controlled by him. Suppressed. Just when countless researchers and powerful warriors felt their hearts sinking at the appearance of this existence and thought they were going to die, the smoke monster paused. AP. Under his control, Some facilities in the ruins of the institute were still intact. If you look closely, you can see that these facilities are even still in operation. A faint force, although not as scary as the smoke strongman, is still tenaciously shrouded in these facilities and protecting them. Not only these facilities, but also the scientific research workers, under the protection of this force, did not suffer any casualties. Jia Yan. You are very interesting. There are so many things you want to protect. And your brainwave power and toughness are beyond my expectations. Is this also a skill given to you by that great being? The smoke monster asked in surprise. He was a little strange at the moment. Jia Yan's strength was really only high level, but his brainwave power was so resilient that he was able to resist his environmental control power to a small extent in some aspects. Boom boom boom. In a research institute under the sky and earth, Jia Yan ignored the pale old man beside him and just used his brainwave power with a cold expression. At the same time, he also used brainwave power to carry out operations on the protected clone equipment. Transfer of energy. A little sound from the clone slowly appeared. That is the beating sound of the heart. Humph, it seems you are unwilling to surrender, then I'll beat you until you have no power to fight back. This monster seemed a little dissatisfied with Jia Yan's attitude at the moment. After all, as a strong person in the second level, his strength is overwhelming compared to Jia Yan. Moreover, Jia Yan was still on the way to release his power. He estimated that even if Jia Yan stopped transmitting power now, he would not have much power left to shuttle and escape through space. At this moment, he actually had to expend his power to protect so many things. It was simply unbelievable. Don't take him seriously. He headed down to the remaining place of the research institute, which was the clone building where Jia Yan was, as if he was stepping on the air, stepping down step by step. As he walked, his strength increased. The sound of blood splattering resounded throughout the world, which was unbearable for more creatures. But in the ground below, a force is still resisting. Finally, the roof of the building below the ground was completely lifted off by the smoke monster's brainwave power, revealing the existence inside. Jia Yan's shining compound eyes were staring at the approaching monster in the building. Jia Yan, wait for your chance to use the clone, but let me wait. This smoke monster had met Jia Yan a long time ago. When he saw it again now, he was a little surprised. Very good. Your strength has indeed reached the edge of being almost venerable in just a few months. It's really amazing, exceeding my expectations. Jia Yan didn't speak, but the sparkle in his eyes flashed even more. And the other party obviously didn't want Jia Yan to control the clone and use all his power against him, because he didn't want Jia Yan to be able to use space power to escape. Puff. A stream of smoke dispersed from Jia Yan's head, and soon covered Jia Yan's entire body. Snort. Jia Yan's brainwave power surged, and his newly formed environmental control ability surged directly, resisting this power on the surface of his body. The other party did not speak, but saw that the first move was not effective. At this moment, his expression sank, and then he increased the use of power again. A wave of brainwave power wrapped around the previous power and wrapped directly outside Jia Yan's body. Creak, creak, creak. Wave after wave of power condensed on the surface of the body. After all, it was the power of a strong person in the second level. Jia Yan felt unprecedented pressure. He could barely move his body. But his tenacity exceeded this strong man's expectations. I can still hold on. He looked a little unhappy and continued to use his power. Up to now, he still looked down on Jia Yan, just the venerable. A high-level person was about to break through the venerable's existence. To him, for him, there is not much need to do it himself. At this moment, the opponent just wanted to use the power of brainwaves to directly entangle Jia Yan until he was unable to move. Only in this way can the greatness of a strong person at the next level be reflected. As for the accident, The smoke strongman has been traversing the Northern Star territory for a long time, and he has never experienced an accident where a high-level strongman can resist a second-level strongman. Not to mention seeing it, he has never heard of it. Click, click, click. Jia Yan felt the scream on the surface of his body, and a faint blue color appeared on the surface of his body. But this blue color seems to be a bit unbearable, and it appears to be deformed. So strong. Is this the real second-level strongman? But this is also in the calculation. Although the second-level strongman is strong, it is not impossible for me to fight, but I need to wait for 3 more seconds. Jia Yan held onto his body, and then the power of his brainwaves was still transmitted fiercely. The clone device not far away was still protected by Jia Yan even after such a brainwave power battle. After all, Jia Yan had worked hard for several months just for this clone. How could it be damaged at this moment? Finally, he persisted for 3 seconds. Boom boom boom. Boom 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 boom. A sound of heartbeats erupted from the body of the little human in the device. Huh? You haven't surrendered yet, the smoke monster above seemed a little impatient. At this moment, his brainwave power was greatly enhanced again. The enhancement this time is not just a little increase in radiation. The enhancement at this moment is actually an unprecedented enhancement. It seems that the other party wants to make Jia Yan lose the power to resist. At this moment, Jia Yan below could feel an even more terrifying force coming from the power transmitting device. After that, he only felt a splitting pain in his head. His spirit was faintly cut off for a moment, and then a smaller part separated and was absorbed by the device. After that, Jia Yan had no time to feel the lost spirit, and an extreme sense of crisis filled his heart directly. Then he instinctively used his brainwave power, which was almost at its peak, to fiercely resist the source of the crisis in the sky. Boom! The earth roared suddenly, and then an unimaginable shockwave appeared throughout the world. This shockwave filled the sky and rolled in all directions. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 703. Before the smoke expert in the sky could react, he saw a blue monster under the earth rising into the sky with a powerful explosion. The speed of this monster exceeded Guan Qiang's expectation this time. Without his care, the opponent had already rushed in front of him. Boom! A front foot shot out, aimed at the strong man in the second level, and struck with lightning. The other party had no time to react and could only evade in a panic. This time, the demeanor of a strong man and the power of a second-level master were actually attacked by this azure monster, which directly hit him without any face. The smoke strongman was shocked. He never imagined that the existence he had been calculating for so long would actually be so terrifying after bursting out with his true strength. What he didn't even expect was that after the opponent performed the clone's operation, he should have been weak for a long time, but now he didn't seem to be weak at all, and was even stronger than before. Of course, the being who came from this attack was none other than Jia Yan. At this moment, his compound eyes were shining with an extremely blazing light. This light seemed to burn the entire world, which was extremely dazzling and terrifying. And inside his body, the light, shadow, and light object that no one can detect is full of joy. How can a strong man from Guan dynasty think that he is stronger than you and can kill you at will? Jia Yan. Let him see the results of your real special training in the past few months. My master's true fame is the greatest a powerful stunt, it is also the real combat skill that you will need to settle down in the future, double fighting technique. Yes. Jia Yan responded respectfully to the light and shadow monster, and then the gleam in his eyes was even more terrifying and he shot out the electricity again. With the radiance in his eyes, Jia Yan's brainwave power radiated directly from the air. This power is still not as powerful as the smoke monster, and it is not as subtle as the opponent, but the total amount of power is weaker than the one that was suppressed before, which is completely different. At this moment, after shooting up, it directly tore a small hole in the opponent's environment control power. Boom boom boom. The brainwave power in the world was even louder. However, many suppressed strongmen and institute creatures found that they could actually move. It's too scary for these two beings to fight, run away. A famous creature looked at the scene of the two monsters fighting. The scene seemed to have changed the world. In addition, the expressions of all the living creatures changed greatly, and they hurriedly took advantage of the situation. As long as he could move, he could escape directly. How is it possible? Your strength has suddenly increased to such an extent. Even if you are at the venerable level, it may not be stronger than you. The smoke monster was caught off guard and was attacked several times by Jia Yan. It was directly bombarded and became unstable. Even the smoke surrounding the body dissipated slightly. Humph, how could a primitive Northern Star Territory person know my master's combat skills? Ignore him and let him think about it until he dies. The light, shadow, and light objects have long found this existence extremely distasteful. Jia Yan had no intention of answering, and the excitement in his eyes was extremely bright at this moment. Double Do Shu, this is what the light and shadow monster taught Jia Yan after he broke through the brainwave power in the starry sky last time. This fighting skill is the master of the light and shadow light object at the top of the starry sky. The most famous and the most his terrifying combat skills are his real weapon to win battles time and time again, and even kill enemies beyond his level. Double Do Shu, as the name suggests, is a fighting technique that doubles one's strength in a short period of time. Originally, this technique can only be used by those with a special physique. To put it simply, the physique needs to be able to withstand an extremely terrifying body. Physical energy consumption. You must know that even the master of the light and shadow monster can only insist on using this technique for 2 days and 2 nights at his peak. But it is during these 2 days and 2 nights that his power is almost comparable to that of the invincible Hung. The star powerhouse shows how terrifying it is. Originally, the light and shadow monster was worried that Jia Yan's physique was not enough to use this strongest combat skill, but in Jia Yan's battles, he saw Jia Yan's endurance, and later even saw his extremely terrifying speed of improvement. Finally, Jia Yan broke through the power of brainwaves and once again strengthened his control of true energy, and taught him this fighting method. Jia Yan did not disappoint him. He actually learned the strongest combat technique, which is theoretically the weakest but only an honorable person can learn it, before reaching the level of a venerable. This is also Jia Yan's true strongest foundation, and the real reason why he is not afraid even though he knows that the smoke monster will appear today. Jia Yan, you really pissed me off. No matter how high your strength is, a high-level starry sky is a high-level starry sky. There is a huge gap between me and a rank-level powerhouse, so die. The smoke monster finally became angry. At this moment, the smoke on the surface of the entire body dissipated directly, and a terrifying power spread out. Inside, a 200-meter level monster charged with a fierce look. Out. Jia Yan fought with him without any fear. What made the opponent even more angry was that Jia Yan fought with him without even the slightest step back. Haha, Jia Yan. You don't have to be afraid of him. Even Double Do Shu, which is an extremely terrifying combat skill at the stellar level, can be such a simple thing? As long as your physical fitness can persist, he will not be able to defeat you, even if he waits until the brainwave power of your control clone has been restored, and even greater power has burst out. It is not impossible to defeat it. Seeing that Jia Yan didn't have much to fear, the light and shadow monster fought with the smoke monster without taking a step back even though his brainwave power and body power were weaker than the opponent's. He immediately roared with enthusiasm and encouragement. The battle here became more and more fierce, and even during the battle between the two, they slowly fought higher and higher, reaching an extremely high altitude. Looking at the battle in the sky, the starry sky-level fire star creatures underground, as well as the creatures who knew some knowledge of the powerful, were all a little uneasy. My God! My God. Am I dazzled? Master Jia Yan is fighting a powerful person at the next level. Am I dreaming or crazy? I actually saw such a thing. No, you are not the only one who is crazy. I am also crazy. I think Lord Jia Yan also saw him fighting a strong person from the second level. You must know that this is a strong person from the second level. In the entire Northern Star territory, except for a half-star level existence, is the strongest among those in the second level. At this moment, Lord Jia Yan is actually fighting against the strongest person in the second level. I must be dreaming like you. All the beings thought they were dazzled, because Jia Yan's strength was boasted by countless people in the past and was highly regarded by countless Hualioxing beings. It can be considered that Jia Yan can successfully defeat a venerable person by leapfrogging over the level. No one believes it. As for the powerful person in the second level who is one level stronger than the venerable, everyone would think that Jia Yan would be caught to death by a strong man from Sichuan with one hand. At most, he just relied on his magical escape ability to escape. No matter how you thought about it, it was impossible to guess that he could actually fight head-on with a strong person from the second level. But no matter how much he disagreed with what was happening in front of him, Jia Yan's battle with a powerful person from the second level still happened before his eyes, and he even seemed to be getting braver with each fight. The battle in the sky was extremely fierce, almost earth-shattering, with landslides and tsunamis. But under the ground, there is a place that is still not too damaged. This is where the research institute was before. At this moment, the entire research institute can no longer look like it was before. But at this moment, in this damaged place, the clone equipment still has intact buildings. The battle above became more and more intense, and Jia Yan flawlessly paid attention to this place for a moment. A broken wall blown up by the fighting wind flew towards this place like a mountain. If there were no accidents, it would directly cover this place in the next moment and completely smash it to pieces. But at this moment, the huge flying wall was actually hovering in the air. A somewhat difficult but extremely powerful wave of brainwave power appeared rapidly here. The wall was blocked by this terrifying brainwave power, hovering in the air, then slowly flying away, and hitting another piece of ground not far away. In the building where the clone equipment is located, a small figure slowly walked out of the pile of ruins step by step, swaying a little. Cough cough cough. An old man with white hair climbed up from the ground with some difficulty, and this old man was also lucky. Because of Jia Yan's special protection in the previous battle, he was not seriously injured. At this moment, he opened his eyes vaguely and saw a small creature that was somewhat similar to the Bella tribe. It seemed to be walking unsteadily, slowly walking out of the ruins. This man seemed to have mastered the art of walking after a few steps, becoming more and more stable as he walked. Those battle shock waves that shot up into the sky were completely blocked by an invisible brainwave force around him. It seems that under the entire war situation, this is the only safe place. This man looked like a man from the Bella tribe, but he was slightly different in details. He kept moving his joints. He shook his head, moved his fingers, and jumped again. Afterwards, he smiled slightly. Perhaps he still couldn't control his expression, and his smile was a bit ugly and unnatural at the moment. He. This unattractive man smiled softly. The energy from explosions and impacts around him was constantly being bombarded, but it was unable to cause any harm to him. Ha 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 ha. It was so funny that he encountered something so happy that he almost went crazy with laughter. The man kept laughing while holding his belly, sometimes touching his arms, sometimes touching his cheeks. The more he laughed, the funnier he became. His stomach seemed to hurt and he almost laughed. After a long time, he slowly stopped smiling. He straightened his expression and said calmly, "Hello, Jia Yan." He opened his fingers, and the fingerprints on them were clearly visible. Through the gaps between his fingers, he seemed to see something worthy of joy, and he began to laugh crazily again. This is not really crazy, but a kind of happiness from the bottom of my heart. The white-haired old man on one side was stunned.